Welcome to the Dope Dad Podcast. This is an unscripted journey for those who are invested in parenting. There's no judgment, there's no BS, just honest conversation about what it really means to be a dad today. It's raw, it's real, and it's unapologetically dope. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is the Dope Dad Podcast. I'm your host, OJ. We're at Podwork Studios out here in Mesa, Arizona. And I got a show for you today, man. This is actually a huge deal for me personally for a couple of different reasons. But one, this is the first guest that I didn't have a personal relationship with for an extended amount of time that's on the show. I've got another dope dad with me today, a founder of 17 Days, somebody with an amazing story, somebody who has, for lack of a better term, been through hell and back, and is excited to share his story, man. So I want to introduce a now very good friend of mine, Shane Musgrove.
Yes, sir, OJ. Glad to be here, man.
Welcome to the show, bro. Thanks for being here, man.
Excited.
Yeah, dude. So coincidentally, you reached out to me, which was a huge compliment and amazing. First time anybody had ever initiated contact to be on the show, man. And dude, reading your email, man, bro, that shit hit home. There were some bullet points in there that when I shared with my wife and my kids, man, I was like, yo, look, somebody reached out. They want to tell their story. They want to be a participant on the show. And quite honestly, bro, it was hard to get through the email without getting emotional, man. The email talked about kind of your journey and the foundation of 17 Days, man. So I guess I just want to kind of like turn it over to you and talk about what 17 Days is and what was in that email, man.
Yeah, sure. So writing the email is emotional. I lived it, but every time I talk about it, I still get emotional, and I'll probably get emotional here today. 17 Days started a little over 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago this month as an idea. It hadn't formulated yet, but back up to February of 2022, February 24th, I was working a corporate job, had 3 kids, lovely wife at home in a home office, doing things like I always do, like most American families do. I was traveling for work. I was a corporate job. Came home from work. It was a Thursday, and my wife comes out of her office, and I said, hey, babe, let's go to dinner and a movie tonight. And she's like, absolutely, let's go. That was our favorite pastime. And a couple hours later, we're planning where to go, and she says, I have a little bit of a stomach ache. Maybe we skip the movie, skip dinner, and I want to go to the clinic, just make sure I don't have the stomach flu. I said, okay, sure, no problem. So we go to the clinic. About 30 minutes in the clinic, the nurse there says, hey, we feel something in your stomach. Not exactly sure what it is. I don't like it. We're going to send you to the emergency room. So the initial thought was, why the hell are we going to the emergency room for a stomach ache? That doesn't make sense to us. But we said, okay, let's go. Drive over to the local emergency room. A couple hours later, after all the tests had been done, we're sitting in this little curtained room in a corner of a hospital, and a nurse walks in, and she's got a stack of papers, and we're watching this little 14-inch TV in the corner. She turns off the TV and sits down and looks at both of us, glances over at my wife, and says, you have cancer. And those 3 words stopped us dead in our tracks, but we said, okay, we'll fight this. Like, what does this mean? What's the next step? Where do we go from here? And immediately following up her 3 words of you have cancer was the tumors in your abdomen appear to be innumerable, so many that we can't even count. We had no clue what that meant. So we're like, okay, so what's the next steps? Where do we go from here? And they said, well, we're going to admit you. It was Thursday night. We're going to admit you into the hospital. We're going to take a battery of tests. You're going to meet with an oncologist tomorrow, but for now, you're going to stay in the hospital. Friday, day 2, oncologist comes in. They do all kinds of additional testing. They do a biopsy. The oncologist confirms it is cancer. It has metastasized. At this point, we didn't know where it came from, but cancer was throughout her entire body. So it was in the lymph nodes, which may have been the worst, but lymph nodes, chest cavity, abdomen, spine, hips, bones, liver, literally throughout her entire body. They kept her in the hospital that week while they waited on biopsy results and some additional results. By Monday, all the results came back, and they said it had originated from a very small tumor in her breast. So we were dealing with metastatic breast cancer, stage 4. And again, we started thinking like, okay, how do we fight this? What's next? What's our next steps? They actually kept her in the hospital on bed rest because the tumors in her hips were impending fractures. So they were afraid that if this 43-year-old woman stood up, she would break both of her hips. And here she had been walking for months prior.
Walked into the hospital.
And here they say, if you stand, you can break your hips. So at this point, the nurses are saying, hey, the outlook isn't great. We're going to do chemo. We're thinking a couple months, but we're going to put a plan in place. Within days, my late wife started to hallucinate. That was because of the tumors in her liver, started to affect her liver, and she started to hallucinate. And nurses quickly reevaluated, and the oncologist said, it went from months to weeks to you need to start contacting your family immediately. Day 8, we had her first chemotherapy in the hospital. After that, it was a very generalized chemo. So it basically attacked all cancer cells in her body. But the oncologist said, hey, there's a treatment out there. It's a more targeted chemotherapy. We think you need that. In order to have that, your insurance won't cover it in the hospital. You're going to need to check out and go to a cancer treatment center. So that's what we did. We set up a mock hospital room at our home. We ended up checking her out on day 8, took her to the cancer treatment facility. Going into that cancer treatment facility, my wife was so bad. She had probably lost 20 pounds in the course of a week. She was jaundicey. Her face was starting to sink in from the weight loss. She couldn't stay awake. She was sick. And even at that cancer treatment facility, they, as they're checking her in to get her next round of targeted chemo, which was the best shot to fight, the nurse said, we can't give your wife chemo. She's not going to make it through chemo. She can't sit in a chair for 3 hours. And my wife literally, she was half passed out and wakes up and says, you were giving me this chemo. This is my only chance to fight. You're giving it to me. I'll make it. And that's the type of warrior she was, right? So she was a badass bitch.
Yeah, dude.
She was half German, half Italian, and she was bad.
She rose from a slumber.
She rose and said,
bark orders.
And she told him. She didn't ask him. She told him, here's what you're going to do. So we sat in the cancer treatment facility for the next 3 or 4 hours. They administered the chemo, and then we took her home. We had a mock hospital room set up in the house. We had all of her family come, everybody surrounding us. And then there were a few good days. There was one day, it was actually day 15, that we were able to get her out of her bed, put her in a wheelchair. We had a great friend, and I'll talk about her too, but an amazing friend, Dina Mackey. She's actually a NICU nurse for babies here locally. When she found out about her friend Sonia, she took unlimited amount of time off work. She didn't go back to work.
Bro.
She came to every appointment with us. She was at the chemotherapy appointment with us. She stayed at our house with us. She would go home and sleep. If I needed a good night's sleep, she would actually stay over and stay at my wife's bedside. But she stayed with us the entire time. Amazing. So day 15, we actually had her up. Dina was able to take care of her, wash her hair. We gave her a sponge bath. We took beautiful pictures with our whole family. And I mean, my 3 kids, all of her sisters, her dad, my mom, really close friends, all surrounding us. We had a good dinner together. We ate outside on a picnic table outside under our patio, smiles. And then day 16 was really, really bad. She didn't get out of bed. I think, day 15 just exhausted her. Unfortunately, gave a little bit of false hope. I remember a conversation with her dad on day 15. He says, Shane, she's doing so much better. She looks so good right now. And I had to tell him, we call him Papa. And I said, Papa, it looks that way. But if you look at all of her testing, she had a nurse coming in giving her blood work every single day. And I said, her liver is just failing. even though physically she looked a little better today and she got up to do some of these things, it's not changing the fact that she's going and going fast. And day 17 just felt a little bit different. I woke up. I didn't shave that morning, which I always did. I went directly downstairs to my wife. I sat next to her. I held her hand literally all day long. I sat in a chair right next to her bed. I mean, of course, I went and grabbed some food and came right back, and I just sat next to her the entire day. Selfishly, I wanted to hold my wife's hand because I felt in my heart today was going to be the day that she passed away. And I sat there and held her hand until about 10:50 that evening. And I sat back in the chair, kind of relaxed for a second, stretched. And 4 minutes later, 10:54 p.m., my daughter Jasmine looks at me. It was March 13th, 17 days after diagnosis. My daughter Jasmine gasps and she says, "Dad, is Mom okay?" And I look over and she had taken her last breath. That was it. I knew her for 25 years. We were married 22 years. We actually celebrated our 22nd anniversary in the hospital during this 17-day period. Our anniversary was on March 1st. We would have been married 22 years, or we were married 22 years. And at 10:54, 17 days after diagnosis, she took her last breath. And right then is where 17 days started. So I didn't know it then. I still had a corporate job. I still had a life to live. You know, honestly, I still had a lot of shit to deal with. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't even thinking about bills yet, but now I had to plan a funeral. I had travel association with all the family. I had 3 kids that I didn't know how to, I wasn't co-parenting anymore. Now I'm a single parent.
Right.
I didn't know what the hell to do, man. I was lost, but I had to start somewhere. And that was the seed of 17 days. So for the next year, I tried to go back to work, but honestly, I wasn't in a good space. My mental health was horrible. I have a very strong, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", 260 pounds.
They can't tell it from us sitting next to each other, but
I'll stand up and flex later. But I'm a big guy. I'm not a very emotional guy. At least I don't carry it on my sleeve, or at least I wasn't a very emotional guy. I had to be strong for my kids. I thought that there was this outward appearance that I had to portray, like, hey, I'm good. Life goes on. Let's get over it. Move on. And inside, I was dying. I didn't sleep. I mean, when I say I didn't sleep, there were literally 3 or 4 day periods where I'd get 2 hours of sleep, interrupted sleep, if that, and just couldn't make it. People at work started calling me out because I'd leave a work event at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and this is a month later, 2 months later, and at 2, 3, 4 a.m., I'm emailing task lists, and at 7 a.m., I'm at the office, and they started picking up, "Shane, like, you need some help. Something's going on." There were days where once my youngest daughter would go to school, she was still in high school, the only child still living at home, I would just lay in bed all day and scream into my pillow, and I wouldn't be on the conference call that I was supposed to be on, or I wouldn't go into the office. And, I'd go down to the garage and hit my punching bag to let out some steam, and before I know it, I'm laying in the middle of the floor just crying for 4 hours. So my mental health wasn't good. Eventually, I ended up taking some additional leave from my work and had to figure out what the hell I was going to do. I don't feel like I was there for my daughter the way that I probably could have been. All of my kids handled it differently. I had one in school in Texas. The other was close to being married. She was engaged, had her own life. But then I had this 16-year-old at home. And, I'm a great dad. I'll still say I'm a great dad. Mm-hmm. And I think she'd agree I'm a great dad. I'm not a great mom. And that was hard to deal with. So I eventually took leave, eventually left my corporate job and said, I got to do something on my own. Fast forward to last August, and I started, I don't know if you want to call it a platform, a movement, But I started a company called 17 Days, and it's based around the 17 days from diagnosis to death of my wife dying. But I didn't want it to be sad, woe is me. I'm a positive guy. I like to have fun. I like to smile, but I also like to spread awareness. So I created the company 17 Days, which is a platform for me to write and also speak on the matter of cancer, on grief, on women getting their mammograms, which is huge. We never play the what if game, but I know at 43 years old, my late wife never had a mammogram. And had she had a mammogram, early detection of breast cancer is 99% survivability rate. So I don't play the what if card. My kids don't play that card. But if that had happened, it could save somebody's life here in the future. So that's what I did, brother. I started 17 Days, and now I do awesome-ass podcasts like Dope Dads, and I've been on a few others. I have my first book published, which is really cool and really special to me. I thought I was going to write this autobiography, and instead I wrote a children's book.
Dude, that's rad.
And I dedicated it to my 8-month-old granddaughter, who will never get to see her grandmother here on earth, but still deserves to know her. So I wrote a book called My Grandma is an Angel, and it resonates with any child that's ever lost a grandmother. And I'm going to parlay that and actually write books on the loss of mothers, fathers, dads, brothers. Everybody lost somebody, and if they haven't, they will. And especially for a kid, it's important for them to know how to deal with it. So, and then here we are. So I'm talking about it. I'm spreading the word, living the life, and I still want to be positive. I lost my wife, and it fucking sucks. But at the end of the day, I'm still here. I'm still living life. I've still got 3 kids. I've got a grandkid. I've got a great girlfriend. I've got 2 wonderful bonus kids. I've got friends. I've got you. I've got, people need to hear this story, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Love the book idea. I think that is so fucking impactful, right? And insightful, man, because giving back to the youth, man, that hits home for me, man.
Yeah.
Dude, your story is so intense. I feel like there's so many things that I want to say about everything that you've already unveiled, man. I guess to even hear the words "you have cancer" is terrifying. It's so terrifying. What was that like for you? I mean, was there denial? Was it immediate retreat? Was it immediate I'm fighting this? What is it like to hear somebody say that?
Yeah, it was the worst day of my life. A lot of people will say, "What are you talking about? Your wife passed away on March 13th." That was hard. That was easily the second worst day of my life. Mm-hmm. But on February 22nd, those were the words, and that was the day that kicked this off, and I knew I was going to lose my wife. That was the hardest day of my life. When we heard it, we had that optimism we're going to fight. Millions of people have cancer. Cancer affects so many millions of people. Breast cancer affects 1 in 8 women worldwide. It's crazy. And I recently did a speaking event where I asked every woman that was battling breast cancer to raise their hand, and it was about 1 in 8. And then I said, okay, now if your mother, your sister, your grandmother, your aunt, your neighbor, your coworker, your friend has breast cancer, raise your hand. Everybody in the fucking room raised their hand, man. Breast cancer affects literally everybody in the world, one way or the other.
Yeah, indirectly or directly, right?
And so initially we thought, okay, there's research out there, there's chemotherapy, there's treatment, we're going to fight it, we're going to be fine. And then to hear those next words, the tumors in your abdomen are so innumerable, we can't even count them. I'm not a medical professional. I didn't know exactly what that meant. But just as an average dude, I was like, that doesn't sound good. Mm-hmm. And then when the nurses started talking about months, I mean, it was hard to, you can't even wrap your head around that. How do you go from being a healthy 43-year-old woman that's active? We're on vacation in Jamaica 2 months earlier. We travel to our son's baseball game in Texas every other weekend. She's at cheer camps with my daughter every other weekend. We do all these things together. To know that you're going to die in, let alone 17 days, but even months, unfathomable. There were some really great blessings throughout that time. I was blessed to have 17 days. You know, people always say, Shane, your story's so impactful. I can't imagine. I put it back on them. I can't imagine somebody that has a spouse that's in a car accident and dies immediately. Yeah. And you never get to say those goodbyes. At least I had 17 days to, you know, I wasn't the perfect husband. I wasn't the perfect father, but we were all perfect for each other.
Yeah.
And at least I had time to make those amends, to have some closure, to say the final I love yous, which, you know, to me, those are moments I'll cherish. I'll never forget some of the moments we had in those 17 days. But, man, it was tough.
Was there a point for you where the initial hope that you had, the initial we're going to fight it and we can get through this, like, was there a point to where that flipped and reality set in and where you were like, fuck, this is happening and there's nothing I can do? I mean, there has to be a point, right, where you're talking about chemo, you're talking about switching up to a different hospital, you're going from generalized chemotherapy to targeted chemotherapy to the point to where the doctors and nurses are telling you, like, this, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. Like, is there a point to where you actually accepted what was transpiring?
Yeah, and that happened for me a lot sooner than it did for her. I can't imagine being in her shoes, hearing, hey, you have weeks to live.
Yeah.
And, like, I think I have control over my own body. You think you have control over your own body. Like, we're tough. My wife thought that for sure. I think she was in denial a little more than me. By that Monday or Tuesday, so day 4 or 5, once more results came in, and the oncologist is telling us, hey, it's in her liver. We can treat that, but it's everywhere. Like, there was just too many odds stacked against her. And every time we would ask the oncologist or nurses, like, hey, what are the chances? What are this? We kept getting hit with the same answer. You need to contact your family immediately. You know, cherish what time you have. It's going to be, you know, like I said, initially months and then turned into weeks. Nobody could put an exact pin in the date. And then even at home, we had her in the hospital for 8 days and then at home for 9 days. Even at home, there were certain days where, like I said, day 15, we had a lot of hope. She's up in a wheelchair. And even at that point, if we thought, man, if we can get an extra month out of this, like, a month would be amazing. Yeah. And then we had our nurse and our friend Dina telling us, hey, Shane, her breathing is starting to change, which is an indication. And then the blood work would come back, and she hadn't had a bowel movement or went to the bathroom in 3 days. She refused to take her medication, not mentally, but physically. She couldn't take her medication on day 16. So things just started to change. So I probably accepted it around day 5. I never accepted the fact that it was going to be 17 days.
No, hell no.
Like, I accepted the fact that, hey, we're going to be in for a fight. This is going to be tough. I imagined chemotherapy, sicknesses, losing her hair, telling everyone, you know, just in my mind, I guess I thought, okay, how long do I have? And let's cherish every moment. And, you know, I remember a point where they talked about chemotherapy and the targeted treatment going across the street to the cancer center versus being in the hospital, where insurance would not pay for it if we were in the hospital. They would cover it if we were at the cancer treatment facility. And it was something ridiculous, like 20, 30 grand a treatment.
Yeah, per session.
And I remember saying, we'll pay it. Like, I'll go bankrupt. I don't care. I'll go work at a grocery store. I'll have 4 jobs. I don't care. Like, whatever it takes to keep my wife here for a little longer, we'll do. And then, you know, 17 days later, it's gone. It's just unfathomable. And there's a lot of worse stuff out there. Like I said, it could happen immediately. It could happen in 1 day. Shit, even 16 days is worse than 17. But I don't wish that on anyone.
I mean, the optimism, you know, of your perspective, to be grateful for the time that you had with her. I mean, you're almost forced to look at it through that lens, right? Because if you don't, then I'm sure there's anger and rage and fury behind it, you know? Like, it's fucking theft.
There's still anger and rage behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember some days, I don't know how I didn't put a hole in my punching bag, and you know, and I've always had a little bit of anger and rage issues anyway, not towards my family, but just in general. And some of that definitely came out, which affected my mental health after the fact. And thankfully, I was good at controlling it. Believe it or not, it was funny. I don't know if it was funny, but it was something my wife used to say. She said she could never leave me because if she did, I would go off the deep end. She thought that I would go into drugs and alcohol and, womanizing and gambling and every other bad thing. She thought I would take the slippery slope. And I think that maybe subconsciously that helped me not do that because my wife always thought, hey, I'm here for you. I'm your rock. I'm your anchor. And she always had been for 22 years of marriage, 25 years together. She was always the one that kept my mind straight and kept me out of that kind of trouble. And here I was for the first time really ever in my adult life without her. And it is a slippery slope. I'm standing right on the edge of it. And I know for myself, it's a really easy step to slide down that slide. And I think that her saying that subconsciously helped me avoid a lot of that.
Troubled youth, man, and a queen comes along and saves you, right? Like there's a emotional obligation to stay the course, to apply the teachings.
That's a great way to put it because she was the one that pulled me out of the fire when I was 21 years old. I mean, I was a troubled youth. I was an alcoholic. There was a point in my life where I sold crack cocaine. I was smoking weed. I was doing pills, everything. And I remember the exact day I had a small house with my best friend, Rich Weeks, and I was home alone and decided to clean out the fridge. And by clean out the fridge, it was any alcohol we had I was drinking. She comes home later that day. I'm passed out on the couch, and there's probably 7-8 bottles of different types of beer or liquor on the table. And the conversation that we had was, hey, it's either that or me. You're done. And it made me step back and start thinking, like, what do I really want in my life? And what direction do I want to go in my life? Because I knew what both directions led to. Well, let me rephrase that. I knew what one of the paths led to. I knew what drinking and alcoholism and drug addiction, and I knew where that led to because of my father, which had died of a drug overdose years earlier. I didn't know the other path. I didn't know the path of clean, sober living, good mental health, loving someone unconditionally, having someone love you unconditionally. And I think that's a more important point. Like, she loved me so unconditionally. She stood by my side through, get this, she stood by my side through 7 or 8 moves, chasing a corporate dream.
Yeah.
She stayed by my side through infidelity. She stayed by my side through bankruptcy. She stayed by my side through job losses, through everything, man. She was there. And honestly, I don't know that I realized that until after she passed. And even today, damn, this is one of the hardest things, and this is one of the biggest regrets of my life, is that for 25 years, she built the man that I am, and I like to think I'm a pretty damn good man. Mm-hmm. And she built this version of a man, and now she doesn't get to reap the benefits of that, right? So good job, financially stable, good father, good husband, good this and that. She built that, and it took all of 25 years to do it. And then she passes away, and now I'm a good man for somebody else. And listen, my somebody else deserves it. My girlfriend is great. My wife would, literally on my wife's deathbed, she told me I'm too young not to find somebody else. On her deathbed, she was more concerned with me than she was her own passing. And that's true unconditional love. But yeah, man, you're right. She's the queen that pulled me out of the fire. Hey, and then she had a fire extinguisher for the rest of her 25 years.
Yeah, man. It's tough to think about why we as men or we as people with troubling childhoods struggle to accept love. Like, isn't that a fucking concept, right? Like, that when somebody loves you so much, it's hard not to be defensive or like pull away from that. That's something that I see a lot of people struggle with, especially in marriage or deep relationships, is that we don't, maybe like subconsciously, we don't feel like we're worthy of it, or we never seen it, so we don't know what it looks like. You know what I'm saying?
I've always pushed it away, especially with men, but I've just pushed love away in general. And I don't know, I think it's a selfish tendency of mine that I don't want to get hurt. And
Defense mechanism, right?
Yeah. And I've been hurt bad in the past. And I just got to a point at a young age where I'm like, no, if I don't love, I don't need to get hurt. So then I would almost self-sabotage. Like if I went out and cheated, well, that's okay. If you leave me, whatever, I didn't need you anyway. Where really I did. Like,
absolutely.
As I get older now, and especially as I had kids, I started realizing like, no, man, you need this. Like, I need to show my emotion. I need to cry. I need to be vulnerable. I need to want love. Like, you have to want love is life, brother. Like, you have to love, and you have to be loved, and you have to be able to accept that. And even today, it's a little harder for me, but I'm definitely still growing and learning that.
Yeah, it's an evolving lesson, right? Like, I feel like I'm constantly learning how to accept and be at peace with my emotions and other people's emotions, and how to merge the two, and where I fall into this whole world. To circle back, man, to the acceptance, I guess, man, that's one thing that, like, as somebody who hasn't been through this, I struggle to understand and to try to, like, put myself in that situation, right? Like, was there a point, and this is your queen, right? Like you guys know each other in and out, right? Like, you know her facial expressions, you know her body language, you know her mentality. Was there a point that you saw with her where she accepted what was happening, that she knew that there was not a resolution, and that it was going to result in death? Like,
so I would say that she never accepted it, and I don't know if that was like a subconscious defense mechanism or some type of mental block to help protect her and preserve her.
Yeah.
I mean, I even remember day 16, she really didn't talk. Day 17 was even worse. But even on day 15, I remember her saying, like, I'm still going to fight. I'm still alive. I'm still, like, I'm not going anywhere, right? That's 2 days before she passed away. So I don't know that she accepted it. There was one thing that happened on day 17. And remember, day 17, I literally sat by her side, holding her hand all day. We had other people in and out of the room. Her dad, when she passed away, it was me, my oldest daughter, Jasmine, and her father, Papa, all sitting in the room. So we were right there when she passed away. But a few hours before that, I told you her breathing had started to change, and it became much more labored. And Dina, who was with us, she kind of explained to me what it meant, and there was, physical medical changes that were happening that kind of indicated where this was going, and going quickly. Well, throughout that, I sat there and I listened to her breathe the whole day. She didn't say much, but she did late in the evening, hours before she passed. She said three things. At one point, and very labored, you could barely hear it, but at one point she said, "Grandma," and her grandma had passed years prior to her, which leads me to believe, like, is Grandma coming? Did she see you? Is she here for you? Is she reaching out her hand? Like, why are you saying Grandma? And then she said, "It's beautiful." And she said, "I'm already home." So, you ask about acceptance. I don't know about acceptance, but I think she was definitely comforted that last few hours before she took her last breath. I think she was definitely comforted. It helps me know that, I have my own thoughts, my own beliefs, but it helps me to know and to believe that she saw her grandma, whatever she saw was beautiful, and that she was truly going home. And that was comforting for me, and hopefully that was a little bit of closure for her to, cross the bridge and to realize, hey, this is where I'm going, because it was going to happen. But I'm glad she was comforted in those final hours.
He seemed inviting and not fearful.
Right. So before this happened, after the diagnosis, but before her death, I actually did quite a bit of research and reading about, when you're expecting a loved one to die, how to act, how to react, how to feel closer to them. So like I told you, we had all of our family in the house. I think we maybe had 12 to 15 people. I'd have to go back and count them all, but 12 to 15 people in the house. And I wanted to be very intentional and very purposeful and very deliberate about what happened when she passed away. We didn't know when that was going to be, morning, night, in her sleep, whatever. We didn't know how it was going to be. But on day 16, the evening of day 16, I decided to put her on hospice. The benefit for us for hospice wasn't having the nurse come to our house, because we already had a nurse. Dina was with us all the time. But it was the after fact. So what I found was, if you're not on hospice and she passes away, law enforcement comes, the fire department comes. It's, they have to call the coroner. It's a big deal. If you're on hospice, it's pretty much you pick up the phone, you call hospice, they send a nurse, they send a coroner, and that's it. So we decided to do that. But I had also read that when someone passes, there's like a gap between here and whatever's next. I don't want to assume. Like I said, I have my beliefs, but between here, the earth, the world, and whatever's next, there's like a thin veil, and there's a gap, and it's very, very thin at that very moment. So we made a decision, and I told everybody in my house, I said, hey, you're all welcome to be in here with it, but when she passes, we're going to be very calm, very deliberately respectful. We're just going to sit in silence. I'm not going to immediately pick up the phone and call 911. We're not going to pick up the phone and call hospice. We're not going to call the coroner right away. We're going to intake that moment to the best of our ability and be as close to her as we can. And I'll tell you, that was probably one of the most special 4 or 5 hours that I've ever had with my family, ever. So she passed away, 10:54. Jasmine, of course, gets very emotional because she saw it. She goes and gets Dina. Dina comes in and says, yes, she's gone. And we then asked the whole family to come into the room. And, sorry. We literally pulled in chairs, and our whole family just sat around her. We did call the coroner, but they said it would be a couple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. We literally sat around Sonia in the bed, and we just told stories. We cried, we joked, we laughed. We were just with her. And it was like she was there. She was part of us. The coroner arrives. Everybody leaves the room so he can do the medical side of what he needs to do. And he asked me to come back in and say my final goodbyes. So I do. I come back in, and he has a black sheet. I say my goodbyes. He covers her with a black sheet. And then he lays a single white rose right on her chest. Fuck. And that was my closure. But it was beautiful. Like, those are the memories that I'll take with. It was the beauty. It was painful. It hurt. It fucking sucked. But there were those beautiful moments that happened. And yeah.
Man. That's deep.
Was there any I imagine the emotions were unpredictable and all over the place, right? And though people had time to register and potentially accept what was happening, one thing that continues to like stick out to me is that Papa was there, right? Like her dad, bro, I got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
I got 3 little girls, man. Like, man,
Yeah.
What was that like between you and him?
Yeah. So Papa, I told you, well, I lost my dad in my early 20s from a drug overdose. My dad was always abusive to me, abusive to my mom, abusive to me. And when I talk abuse, man, I'm talking extreme abuse. There were literally bullet holes in our walls where he had shot at my mom. I remember, glass ashtrays being thrown across the wall. My dad burned our house down one time because he beat the shit out of my mom. She threatened to leave him. He basically called her work and said, "Bitch, be home in 30 minutes or I'm torching the house." And it wasn't an idle threat. He burned the house. So, that's what I grew up with as a male figure in my life. And it wasn't good. So I never needed that male figure, but Papa was the closest I ever had. So I met him when I was 18 years old. For the next 25 years, he was a crucial part of my life. And he never stepped in and tried to be a father. But, before that, I couldn't change a tire or the oil in my car. He taught me all that shit like a father was. He wasn't the type of Papa that would go play catch with me because I was an athletic guy. Mm-hmm. He couldn't throw a football for shit. But he'd build anything. He'd fix anything.
Yeah.
He gave me good life advice. Even though, Papa, I hope you're watching this or listening to this because I don't know that I'd take his life advice because honestly, I don't know how many wives he's had. I think 5 or 6.
Oh, shit.
But he was a good fucking dude. He still is a good fucking dude. And he has 4 daughters. So Sonia was the oldest. Crystal, her younger sister, is her full sister. And then we had 2 twins, Cindy and Michelle, that were Sonia and Crystal's half-sisters. Mm-hmm. So this guy, same as you, right? He's got little girls across the board, 4 little girls. And to bring him into the house and to know that, Papa's less than, at the time, 60 years old, and he's losing his baby girl, his little girl. Like,
firstborn daughter.
The conversation telling everybody was brutal. But telling him there was a little more onto it. I'm still close to Papa. I still love our relationship. I'm very thoughtful in the things I try to do for Papa. So Sonia was actually cremated. Of course, he was here for her passing. He was here for her remembrance of life. Afterwards, we're from Michigan. We live in Arizona now, but we're from Michigan originally. We had some family that couldn't come out for the celebration of life, so we wanted to do something there as well. And part of what we wanted to do was spread some of her ashes in Lake Michigan. So I took about a third of her ashes. Me and my kids went to Michigan. We had a huge gathering on the beach of Lake Michigan and spent the day playing in the water, throwing frisbees and footballs around, building sandcastles, everybody from kids to grandparents, right? And we've probably had, 30 or 40 people there to celebrate Sonia. And then it was time to spread her ashes. So we take all 30, 40 of us. We walk over to the pier, walk to the end of the pier, me and my kids, and then we bring Papa and her sister Crystal up with us, and we spread her ashes into Lake Michigan, right? A couple hours later, it starts raining. We're at Papa's house, and there's this big-ass 30, 40-foot pine tree in the front yard. And the story is that when Sonia was a little girl, her and her Papa planted this tree. And I heard about this tree all the time. It was her and Papa's tree. So it's raining out, and we're in sharing memories, and I grab Papa and I say, "Hey, Papa, what tree is Sonia always talking about that you guys planted together?" And he's like, "Hey, the big one right in the front yard." And we look out the bay window, and there's a big big ass pine tree right there. And I'm like, yeah. I said, hey, let's go check that out. And he goes, what do you mean check it out? Shane, it's right there. Look at it. It's raining out. And I said, no. I said, I want to walk over there. Let's walk over there and be close to it and see it. So me and him walk out in the rain. We walk under this big ass pine tree. And he's like, yeah, this is it. And I pulled out a small vial of Sonia's ashes. And I handed them to him, and he looked at me and he's like, Shane, what is this? And I said, Papa, I think part of Sonia needs to be here.
Man.
And we spread the ashes all around the tree. We hugged. Big, hard moment, right? But I intentionally did that because I wanted to give him something to hold on to. And it was about a year later, he sent me a picture of, for the first time ever, flowers had started to bloom.
Yeah, man.
Under that pine tree. So, yeah, so for him, I mean, you know, I have to realize, like, I put myself in his shoes now. My oldest daughter is married, and if something like this ever happened to my oldest daughter, you know, who does that affect worse, your husband or the man that's literally raised you your entire life and been part of your entire life? Like, I love my son-in-law to death, but he's only been there for a portion of my daughter's life, right? I've been there for everything. And I had to put myself in his shoes and think about, like, what is Papa going through? And make sure I intentionally included him. And I thought that spreading the ashes around that pine tree was really sentimental, and I think it meant a lot to him.
That speaks to me, man. I feel like that's probably that's the play. And the fact that he reached back out. I mean, the flowers thing is fucking next level, isn't it?
It was amazing. Yeah.
Like, whatever you believe.
Yeah.
Man. Talk about adding to that belief.
Yeah. Some people call them God whispers, coincidences. I call them little signs, whatever you want to call them. But it was amazing. During the entire 17 days, and even after the fact, we had so many of those that it was undeniable that they weren't signs. They weren't coincidences. Like, there were just too many of them. And some of them are really beautiful, man. Like, some of the things that happened, and during the 17 days when they happened, a lot of times I thought, oh, these are signs for my wife. And it wasn't until probably a year after she passed that I continuously reflect. And, you know, I look back in photos, and I look back in my notes, and I look back at all these things. And I started to realize, no, all those little signs and those little God whispers, they weren't for my wife. They were for me, for my kids, for my family. Like, they were very intentional to help us get through it the best we could.
You talk about writing quite a bit. Was writing something that you did before all this? Is this something that you took up? Like, is that a way for you to kind of get your emotions out there, or what's?
Yeah, man, writing has always been an outlet for me. So, believe it or not, my mom still has a poem for me. I don't know. I had to have been in first or second grade. I literally wrote a poem about my dad drinking and doing drugs. I mean, if you go, but she still has it, right? It's amazing. Shit. 30, probably 40 years later.
Yeah.
And I remember it has like an alcohol bottle with a X through it. It has a little joint on the cover with an X through it.
Damn.
You know, that's when I started writing. And it was always an outlet for me. I've definitely transitioned my writing style. Back in the day when I was an early teenager or even a late teenager, a lot of it was pretty dark stuff that now I go back and read and I'm like, man, what kind of mental headspace was I in to write some of this shit? You know, but it was me. None of it was fake. And I've always been that way. I don't write for other people. I write what I feel. And I never changed it. So some people would write something, they'd go back and proofread it and erase it and rewrite it. And I was like, no, man, you're getting my heart, you're getting my soul. If I write it, that's what I wanted to write, if it makes sense or not. And yeah, so that was always a little bit of a release for me. I didn't write for years when I was married. Here and there, I'd write a poem or I'd write something in a card, or, you know, I'd write something like that. But it was very few and far in between. But I I mean, I have notebooks full of hundreds and hundreds of poems that I've written over the years. So for me to pick back up with books, it just made sense to me. I'm like, I love to speak. I love to write. Why not do what I actually enjoy doing? And now I feel like I've always had a story to tell. That story's just got a little more impactful. Mm-hmm. So now I have a little more to write about. And I hate the fact that I have so much to write about, but I do have a lot to write and speak about.
That's a big reach.
Yeah.
With the writing, when you put pen to paper, is it intentional? Are you thinking about what you're doing, or are you just letting emotions spew?
It's funny. 95% of the time, emotions just come out, and whatever I'm thinking comes out on paper. And there are times that, I'll write something, and then I'll look down and I'll read it, and I'll go, "Whoa, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
There's another portion of the time, like obviously when I'm writing a book, I'm very intentional of where the beginning is, where the end is, kind of the message that I want to portray and get across. But that comes very easy to me.
Yeah.
So, but 95% of the time, man, it's raw, and it's sometimes it even shocks me. Mm-hmm. It's like I leave my body and write it and come back and go, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, blacked out for a second.
Blacked out for a second, man. Like, and a lot of, not calling myself a true artist by any means, but a lot of true artists, great musicians, that stuff happens.
Of course.
They come back and they're like, "Whoa, that's pretty good."
Yeah.
And not saying all my stuff is good, because some of it's shit, but man, it's me. It's raw. It's emotion. You're getting me. So if you ever want to know my whole life, brother, I got, 6, 7, 8 notebooks you can read and go, "Oh yeah, that's Shane."
Would you say that prior to being in touch with your emotions and learning how to articulate as an adult, right, and speak to someone, would you say that writing is like your love language?
Yeah, 100%. So, and that's a great point. I didn't know how to deal with any of that, right? I had all of these emotions. Granted, I didn't know any different, because when you're raised in something, that's just what you know.
Yeah, you think that's all there is?
Yeah, that's all there is. I didn't know any different. But as I started to get older, that was my outlet. So it definitely helped. I was a violent kid too. I used to fight a lot, and writing is definitely better than fighting, right? So I'd rather pick up a pen than my fists, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy how far we've come, right? And very, very few people will know the story, right? Like, very few people will know the changes that were made and the things that you've walked away from.
Listen, man, my highest job title was Chief Operating Officer, literally C-suite, dealing with multi-billion-dollar clients, working for multi-billion-dollar companies, wearing a suit representing millions and millions of dollars of business. And I used to sell crack cocaine. Like, I used to pop pills. I used to be an alcoholic. Yeah. My mental health is not good. But yeah, we always learn, we always evolve. Like, fuck, man, it's amazing to see where I came from. And the interesting thing is, where I came from, I was never expected to do anything. Mm-hmm. I could have been a 9th grade dropout, working a labor job at a fast food place at 47 years old, and an alcoholic, a drug addict, and nobody would have thought any different. Like, oh, that's Ronnie's.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's Ronnie's kid. Well, they call him Tennessee. That was my dad. Oh, that's Tennessee's kid. Yep, that's what he's supposed to do. Instead, I took all of that, realized what I didn't want to be, with a whole lot of help, right? My late wife, Sonia, helped me. I had an uncle that helped me in the job aspect. Papa was there to help me. I had grandparents there to help me. And without me even knowing, they put me on a different path that changed my complete life. A master's degree, good paying jobs, nice house, nice cars, 3 great kids. I spent 22 years completely sober doing nothing, and coming from where I was to where I am today, and I'm still learning, I'm still evolving, probably more so now. The last 3 years have definitely been a challenge for me to grow, learn, and evolve even more than when I was a child, because it's something different. It's something new. Like, I knew what I had and I knew where I was, and now I got to evolve and I got to do something different. And what do I want that to look like?
Yeah.
And now I'm just a little older, a little wiser, a little smarter, and a little more in tune with what do I want to do? What do I want that to look like? And that's kind of the version you're starting to get.
But you know what's crazy? So you said, we learn, we evolve. Not everybody.
True.
Not everybody, bro. Like the reality is, man, like there's few people that make those conscious decisions to change their life. Right. And sometimes it takes, your uncle, takes Sonia, takes Papa, takes whoever's in your family that sees something in you that maybe you don't see in yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you're raised in a fucked up environment, you don't even know what you got.
Yeah.
You have no idea what your strengths and qualities and attributes are until somebody else says, hey, I see this in you. Let's foster this and encourage this behavior, right? Because I'm sure you could go back to Michigan, you're going to run into kids that you went to school with that are doing the same shit, same house, same couch, same job,
100%.
all those things, right? So the reality is I don't think that everybody continues to evolve and change. I think those are conscious decisions. Yeah. And I think sometimes they take encouragement from other people to push us to go against the grain and to fight what feels normal, to get what's excellent underneath.
Yeah, and for me, a little bit of it has always been that competitive nature. So,
oh yeah, you're a sports guy, huh?
I was a sports guy. I was an athlete growing up. I played, every sport you could think of. I mean, I even remember being, 7, 8 years old in the backyard. I would throw a tennis ball off the roof and try to catch it. I'd throw a football up and run after it and dive and try to catch it. And then that leads into high school where I wasn't very good at basketball in high school, but I was pretty decent at football. So I ended up playing football. I went to college to play football. And, even today, that competitiveness of, I want to do a little bit better. I have that drive. So it does take all those people to help push you, but it's also that internal burn of just challenge yourself. Mm-hmm. Can I do it or can't I?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, yesterday, man, I had a couple small things that didn't go my way in the morning. First thing in the morning, like wake up, grab my phone, check it. A few things didn't go my way. And by about 1 o'clock, I remember telling my girlfriend, I said, I feel very anxious. I can't really catch my breath. I'm on edge. Like all of this stuff is just, it feels like it's starting to pile on me. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I recognized it and I told her. And internally, I told myself, fuck this, man. You can do better. Make yourself happy. Go do something. Be better. And that's what I did. Like, it's tough and not everybody can do it, but I literally just challenged myself, like, get out of this funk. What am I doing? Mm-hmm. It's my choice of if I'm happy or not, no matter what. Forget all the outside influences, right? And of course, there's things that are going to make you sad, mad, happy, whatever. But for me, it was like, if I don't like it, change it. The things that bothered me early in the morning were nothing that were going to fundamentally change my life. And that's the way that I started thinking about things. And, even when my kids go through stuff, my biggest piece of advice for all of them is today is not the worst day of your life. And, me and my kids, we've already had the worst day of our life. I'm not saying we won't have another one, but 99.9% of the time, whatever's bothering you, it's not the worst day of your life. Mm-hmm. Move on.
Yeah, perspective's important, man.
Big time. And it's hard to get there, but that competitiveness and that athleticism always helped drive me to do a little bit better and be a little bit better. And I fail, right? That's part of being an athlete too is, I fail. I've lost multiple times. But you get back on the horse and you try to do better the next time. You lose one game, you come back and try to win the next one.
Yeah. Do you think that through everything that you went through with Sonia and how quickly you saw things transpire, that initiated some type of perspective on the world for you, that you take advantage of the time that you have to find happiness or seek success? Not necessarily like financial or business success, but like emotional success, right?
Yeah, 100%. Everybody always says, you only get one life, live for today, be happy today. It's all bullshit until you really live it. Like I used to say that too, and I truly didn't understand it. Like the day she passed away, my life was changed forever. February 22nd, when I heard those 3 words, you have cancer, my life was changed forever. And I was always the corporate guy. I thought the bigger the title, the bigger the paycheck, the more employees I had, the happier I'd be. What I realized was that took me out of the home because I traveled a lot. So I was away from the kids a lot. Don't get me wrong. I was at every baseball game that I could be at. I was at every cheer competition that I could be at. I was at every volleyball game that I could be at. But why couldn't I be at all of them, right? And there's a balance there. Like, you still have to support a family and bring in some income, but you still have to be there, to emotionally support them. But I think after Sonia's passing, to me, it was like, I'm halfway through my life. I'm 47 years old, man. If I make it to, I'm bad at math, but if I make it to 94, was that good?
Yeah, you nailed it, bro.
Man, thank God.
Nailed that shit.
I practiced before I came in here. If I make it to 94, like, that's one hell of a life.
Dude, an incredible life.
But I'm halfway done, brother.
I think about that all the time.
I'm halfway done.
I really think about that all the time.
And when have I been, like, truly happy? So
just fulfilled, right?
Fulfilled, yeah. So there's been a little bit of a mindset, and I even made a mistake after I left the corporate world. I got into something else. I opened a business, and it didn't go well, and I didn't love it, and I wasn't passionate about it, even though I thought I was, and I lost my ass on it financially, and it still stresses me out today. But at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I need to take my own advice. If I'm doing something that I don't like, if I'm doing something that doesn't make me happy, if I'm doing something that doesn't fulfill me or satisfy my needs, change it. Move on. Do something else. So that's exactly what I did, man. I put that to the side, and I said, here's my next endeavor. And I do it every day. I mean, my girlfriend jokes about how spontaneous I am. It's true, because if I wake up and, yesterday is a perfect example. I'm a big Cubs fan. Go Cubbies. Very intentional. They're in town for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I woke up yesterday with no plans, and at 2 o'clock I decide I'm going to take one of my bonus kids, Carter. He's a big Cubs fan. I said, hey, we're going to the game. Bought tickets, drove to the game within 3 hours. I'm like, because it made me happy. It was something I wanted to do, and I wanted to share that with somebody else, with Carter, that we could get some time together and hang out and be buddies and do something fun, and we both enjoy it. And, I could have sat at home and watched Netflix, or I could have went to a 9-to-5 job, or I could have, went and hit the bottom. I could have done anything.
Yeah.
But, I just want to do things today that, A, make me happy and fulfill me, and B, that touch as many other people as I can. And there's layers to that. So I want to make sure my kids and my girlfriend and bonus kids and they're supported and they're fulfilled. And then that circle gets a little bigger with my in-laws and my sister-in-law and my nephews and my brother and some others. And then that extends to my close friends and acquaintances. And now I literally want, I want to touch the world, brother.
Yeah.
Like, you could listen to this and my other podcasts, and you can read my book, and you can meet me in person, and you could go, Shane, that's all bullshit. Like, I don't believe in any of that. And that's fine. Or you could say, hey, Shane, one thing you said resonated with me, and it made me think, and it made me feel a little better, and that helps fulfill me, right? Me helping other people fulfill me. If I can encourage one woman in the next 40 years to go get a mammogram, and it potentially saves her life, that's amazing. One of my things is I give a pair of boxing gloves to people that are fighting cancer. So like when I go speak at breast cancer awareness events, somebody did it for me. They gave me a pair of boxing gloves and a Sharpie, and they said, and it was somebody I really didn't even know. It was an employee of mine that he was new, and I really didn't know him. And it was one of the most impactful gifts I've ever gotten. One of. There was another one that was more impactful, but one of. He gives me this pair of boxing gloves and a Sharpie, and he says, Shane, you and your wife are not in this fight alone. Take this to every appointment, every chemotherapy appointment, every doctor's appointment, any nurse, any doctor, any oncologist, any family member, any friend that comes in contact with Sonia, you have them sign it. And those are all the people that are fighting for you and fighting for her.
That's dope.
And dude, I went, wow. And I adapted that. And so, I'll do that at public speaking events. I'll ask who is fighting cancer currently, and I'll literally give them a pair of boxing gloves, and I'm the first one to sign them, man.
That's super dope.
It's helping other people, and it's helping myself as well. But, like I said, one of the reasons I'm on here is I have a story to tell, and Obviously, over the last 3 years, people have been interested in my story. It's gotten a lot of traction. I've had several podcasts, a lot of interviews, a book, a few other things. And people think that I have a story to tell, and I'm willing to tell it. So that's all good and great, but I want to help people, man.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's that one person, I want to help them. Hell, yesterday on Facebook, there was a post with an autistic kid that was having a birthday and all he wanted was a ride in a Tesla. I happen to own a Tesla, so I immediately message and I'm like, when can I come over? Like, let's go for a ride. Let's go. Just help somebody.
That's dope.
Whatever you can do,
Good for you, Doug.
Yeah.
Did you promote that employee? I know that motherfucker got a raise, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's a CEO now.
That's
I left shortly after, but and I feel bad. Like, I didn't know him well, but seriously, that was one of the most impactful gifts.
Do you think he knows?
I mean, the way that it happened on day 8. So it was the day that Sonia got released from the hospital, and I worked for a company that actually, we had a contract at the hospital we were at, and we were doing some work at the hospital, but we were supposed to park our vehicles in like a construction area. And I happened to be looking out the window. I get a call from one of my coworkers, and he's like, "Hey man, you looking out the window?" And I said, "Okay." So I look out the window, and all of a sudden I see about 8 of our vans drive in. And I immediately got pissed off. Like, we're not supposed to park in this main lot.
Wrong
Like,
parking lot.
what are you doing? Yeah. Like, I'm dealing with this, and now, and it's the day we're checking my wife out, and all of a sudden these eight or 9 vans, I don't know how many, pull in, and a bunch of other cars pull in behind it, and they literally park right in the middle of the parking lot. And before I know it, there's 30 employees standing in the parking lot, and they have like this 40-foot banner that says Sonia Strong on it. And so I go down there, and I'm fucking a blubbering mess. I'm crying all over everybody, but these are people I spent years with, and I'm hugging them, and they're all giving me encouraging words. And then here comes this guy with these boxing gloves, and he steps back and he tells me, and maybe the more impactful part of it was that his wife was going through it, and somebody gave him to him.
Oh wow!
So for me, I'm not the originator of this. I'm paying it forward. I'm just passing it along. But we embraced in this gigantic man hug. He was a big guy too. So here's 500 pounds of dudes hugging and crying on each other. And I think at that moment, however he felt when he received the pair that he got, he knows that's how I felt. And when I give them to somebody else, I hope that's how they feel too. Yeah. And I never want it to overshadow anything. It's just a tool to help you get through. Yeah. It's a coping mechanism, right? It makes you feel a little bit better, and it's a way to deal with it a little bit better.
Feel understood.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe nobody's had my exact story, right? Because like I told you, I've got a lot. Abusive childhood, addiction, mental health, bankruptcies, job loss, 17 days, brother was in prison, mom overdosed, lost my mother-in-law to a drug overdose, 2 grandfathers died on suspicious means. Like, nobody's going to have my exact story, but there's millions of people that have stories just like mine. And everybody's story is different, but everybody's story is the worst to them, right? So my story is horrible, but I think of other people that have lost their spouse immediately, or have went through worse things, or shit. I think of people that, have kids that are in a bad accident or born with some horrible illness. And to me, I'm more empathetic and that hurts me worse. I'm more empathetic to their story than I am to my own. Like, there's so many people with it worse off than mine. I'm almost a little bit honored that people want to hear my story and realize that it helps, but not everybody wants to talk about their story either.
And I think too, that's probably why so many people are like really open and receptive to your message, man, is because historically and societally, like, bro, we're not supposed to talk about our emotions.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially dudes.
You're
right?
a dude. Yeah, you're a dude. You're a big dude. You're a tough guy with, like a background like that, bro. You're supposed to, suck it up and you push it down and you shut up and you move on, right? But I don't like that narrative.
Nope.
That doesn't work for me, right? Like that's not healing. If anything, that's damaging. I can't be the best version of myself for my kids or, you know, my spouse or the people that are around me. And the fact that you're running with a different narrative, right? Like I'm assuming at this point you're taking your mental health very serious, right? You had touched on that a couple different times about kind of struggling with mental health. I mean, what's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, it's tough. It's more of a self-medicating for me. I'm not a big fan of doctors. I'm not a big fan of medicine. I'm not a big fan of big pharma, and I could tell you 100 different reasons because of it. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if I get cut, I'm going to the hospital to get stitches. If I have something serious, yes, they're there. I love them. I mean, one of our best friends is a nurse, Dina, and she saves babies' lives literally every single day. And I love them for that.
Dina's a fucking angel, for the record,
Dude,
bro.
she is fucking amazing.
I don't know Dina, but shout out to Dina wherever you are out there helping out the kiddos, man. Like,
Dina knows she's literally been my angel, and she's still part of my story, which is amazing. So for me, it's not the psychologist, the psychiatrist. It's not the medication that they're going to prescribe. For me, it's knowing myself, knowing my limits, knowing my boundaries, knowing what makes me happy. So I self-medicate a lot, and it's a lot of the, hey, I'm having a bad day today. You know what? Let's change it. We're going to a Cubs game. And full disclosure, man, there's some days where I can't, right? Like for months after Sonia passed away, I cried every single day. And I don't remember the exact date, the first date that I didn't cry, but I remember looking back going, oh, I didn't cry today. Like, that's new to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't always succeed at that self-medication, and I'm not promoting it or saying it's the best. I'm saying it works for me. But I know I've been more in tune with my own body, with my own mind, my own emotions. I'll tell you, man, I cry a lot more. Mm-hmm. Like, you put me in front of a movie screen or put a Taylor Swift song on, I'm fucking bawling. and I don't mind it. Like, I don't care. I'm secure with my masculinity, and you know what? Dudes should cry. Like, it's a good release, brother.
I agree.
Like, I think I cried for probably half of this conversation so far, and it's okay, man. Emotions are good, but yeah, it's a tough journey, and I still got a long way to go. Like, I know I'm not perfect. I got a lot of mental issues going on upstairs, but if you follow your heart, then you get through them.
Yeah, I like the fact that men are taking care of themselves, who are taking their mental health serious, who are paying attention, who are not just trying to suck it up. I got one of my closest homies back in Seattle named Devin. He's a big ass black dude, bro. Probably like 6'5".
Yeah.
Just like, he's a G, man. He raised gangster.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him and I was going through some mental shit. I'm like, bro, sometimes I need somebody to fucking talk to. And sometimes I feel like there's nobody that like connects, that can understand exactly what I'm going through. And sometimes like, I need a platform, right? Like,
yeah.
I need support. And he's like, oh, you need to cry, dog. He's like, you know what helps me? A good cry. And I'm like, you for real? He's like, hell yeah, that shit helps. And it does. It's like, it's a release.
Yeah.
It's a release of all of that energy, right? Like, you exude so much emotion when you cry. You're like, fuck, I feel better.
How crazy is it to think that guys need hugs? Oh.
I mean, not that crazy. I'm kind of like I'm kind of a needy dude, but I'm in touch with my needy. And I don't want to be like a little needy, like naggy bitch or whatever, but like, I'm transparent when I need stuff,
Yeah.
My wife's like, you okay? I'm like, dude, I feel like, I don't know. I need you. Like, just put your hand on me. Let me know you're there. Like,
That's your love language.
I need connection,
touch.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. Like, I'd always, I was a hugger. I'd hug people, like bro hug, like, hey, what's up, man? Hug a little bit. Girl came up, you'd hug her. But I mean like an actual hug. Mm-hmm. Like, and I read something just the other day that said the average American, the average human needs 4 hugs a day to like fulfill their need of physical touch or emotional connections or whatever. And I started thinking about that, and I'm like, man, I love to hug people. Mm-hmm. I was here in this studio last week at a launch, right? They just had a podcast launch. It was a great event, and I literally hugged every person I saw. They introduced me. I don't fucking shake hands. Like that's 1940s, man. Like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Right.
Come here, bro. You want to get to know me? You want to say hello? Like, I want to hug and I want to embrace. Like, and it just, I don't know. For me, it feels good, man. Like we hugged when we met earlier today,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
I think the first time we met, weeks ago, we hugged. Like,
without question.
To me, it just, it's one of those things, and it connects to, physical health, mental health. It connects all that stuff. But to me, man, crying now is normal. I definitely control it a little more. I don't cry every day, but obviously when things touch a nerve, I cry and love to hug. And it's just, it's the new version. It's a 2025 version of good men. Like, dude, we're raising little girls too, but damn, I'm there for them. And it's a 2025 version
it's
of
a new
men,
update.
and we're good, brother. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I look back at like childhood and what, the 80s said dudes were supposed to be like, and the 80s were obviously like much less restricted than like the 70s and the 60s and the 50s,
right.
So it's getting progressively like more accepted. But I look at like the 80s and the 90s, I'm like, man, we went through some shit, bro.
Yeah.
There was like crazy shit going on and emotional stuff that happened to us, and we weren't really supposed to talk about it or accept it or learn how to like digest those emotions and come out okay on the other end. Like we talk about behavior being like unpredictable or erratic or anger issues. Well, yeah, because you never worked through half that shit that you got buried.
Here's our generation, man. 1985, all the schools take hundreds of kids and put them in a gymnasium in front of a 28-inch TV screen, and you watch them pile teachers into a space shuttle and go up in the air and blow up in front of your eyes, and then they turn off the TV and send you back to class. Yeah. Like that's what we dealt with. There was no emotional support groups. There was no, you go into an airport and there's an emotional support pod. There was none of that shit back then. We just dealt with it. And how do you deal with it? You figure it out.
Yeah.
So for me, it was
don't be a pussy. Don't cry.
Don't be a pussy. So I buried it. I pushed it down, and I'd either fight or write, and that's how I dealt with it. And until very recently, I'm learning how to deal with all of that stuff in a healthy way. And not great. Like I still have issues with my dad's passing. Yeah. I mean, I hate him. Absolutely fucking hate him. He was a nightmare for me for my entire life. I mean, even as an adult, young adult, I remember times where he would call my wife and want to talk to me. He was drunk or high, and he'd call my wife and want to talk to me, and she would say, "Ronnie, he's not home. He's at work." Bitch, you're fucking lying. I'm going to come burn your house down and kill you. That's my dad saying that to me. Like, how do I not hate this guy? I would hate you if you said that to my wife, right? Of
course.
I fucking hate the guy. But somewhere, like, I know I'm supposed to forgive him. And for 47 years, man, I've struggled with, how do you do that? How do I forgive him? How do I love him? I don't know that I ever will. But yeah, so I've gotten a lot better. I'm not perfect, but there's always learning opportunities and growth opportunities.
The thing is too, without closure and something like that, you know what I mean? Like you're left to your own devices, and a dude left to his own devices has a few uncomfortable outcomes.
For sure.
A lot of our outcomes are not desirable.
For sure.
But my hat's off to anybody, honestly, that's trying to work through it, man. That's transparent, that communicates well, that's trying to work through it, because shit's hard.
Yeah.
It's real hard.
Yeah.
So circling all the way back, man, there's one thing that like really stood out for me. My wife recently was like going through something, and she needed help, and I was helping her shower. And that was one of the most, it's hard to really picture like what it was like for me, but it was so emotionally connecting, like washing her body, like not in a sexual way.
Yep.
But in a,
I need you.
in like a nurturing way, right? Like, and for me to be there. And so you were talking about on day 15 that Dina and yourself gave your wife a bath and washing her hair. And that just completely caught me, because that's such a necessary kindness and emotionally connecting thing to do. and maybe it just hit me different than other people who were listening. I mean, what was that like for you?
Yeah, for me, it was actually tough because it was my wife losing her devices. Yeah. So day 15, when I say we gave her a bath, it was actually a sponge bath. So, I mean, I'm going back to probably day 1 or 2 was the last time she had an actual shower in a bathtub, right? Because since then it had been sponge baths or, bedside baths. Washing the hair, it was a special cap that they have that's designed. You put on their head, put their hair in it, and it like washes their hair. It was a really cool thing, but it wasn't like we had her in the sink or in the bathtub and washing her up. But for me, it was actually really hard because it was, like I said, my wife losing her devices. She can't do this on her own. Very similar to that, the thing that hit me the hardest was with her liver failing, she didn't use the bathroom a lot. She did have a catheter in, but when she had to have a bowel movement, we literally had this fucking, I don't even know what you call it, this sling. So it was a metal contraption that sat over the bed. We'd pull it over. We'd roll her over, lay her in this sling, crank it up to pick her up and put her on a toilet. And
like a bedpan or some shit?
Like a bedpan. And it was almost humiliating for me. And I know it was necessary, right? So anybody going through it, I don't mean it derogatory that it's humiliating, but it was my own wife couldn't get out of a bed and move 2 feet to go to the bathroom. And she fucking hated it.
I'll bet.
So we did it maybe twice. And she's finally like, I'm done. I'm not doing that. Like, just pick me up. So eventually it was me and her dad or, me and my brother or me and my son, literally just picking her up and carrying her to where we needed to put her. And then we'd pick her up and put her back in bed. And, sometimes you got to think about that. This is not my story to tell. It was hers. And I feel like for her, it was embarrassing. It was demoralizing. And for her, it was a little bit of, man, I can't even do this on my own. And it was hard. But on the other side of that, for me, after 25 years of being together, and I've always taken care of my late wife financially, whatever it was, like I was there, I provided. But she never physically needed me to take care of her. And that 17 days, along with, Dina and along with the other doctors and nurses, I had to physically take care of her. So I had to fix her food, which I cook anyway, but I had to fix her food. I had to get her drinks. I had to help her take her medicine. I had to help her use the bathroom. We had to help bathe her. We had to help lay her up. We had to help change her clothes. She physically depended on me. And without me or somebody else there, she couldn't have done it. And that was, if anything, it was a little bit of a final days connection that me and my wife got to have together. And I think is embarrassing and telltale as it was, she appreciated the fact that A, I was there, right? And B, I was willing to do it. I mean, you wouldn't believe, I work with a local company called Impact One. It's breast cancer awareness, and they do all kinds of great things, man. She runs it. Elizabeth and Brenda run it. They're amazing people. They've all been through it. And they just say, there's not a lot of guys. And I don't know the exact statistic, but she says, Shane, after somebody gets breast cancer, guys bail. And I saw it firsthand.
Bail what? Like leave their spouse?
They bail, yeah. I mean, imagine being with a woman and she needs a mastectomy or a double mastectomy, and the dude just is like, nope, not for me. Like, I don't know if I can say this, but like tits are more important than your fucking wife.
I mean, yes, you can say that. And I would double down and say, if you leave your wife and she needs you the most, you're a fucking bitch.
Yeah. 100%.
Like straight up, bro. Like you can abandon your queen when she needs you medically, bro. Like you're a punk.
And I hear some of those statistics that they say, and it's amazing to me. And I'll tell you, it didn't come to fruition to me until my girlfriend went to get a mammogram after Sonia's passing, and we got together and she went to get a mammogram, and I went with her. And I'm sitting in the lobby, and here comes a girl to get a mammogram. She leaves. Here comes another one. She leaves. My girlfriend, she comes out. 0 fucking guys in the room.
No support.
0. Most of them came by themselves. Now I'm like, I've had some medical procedures, right? I had my first colonoscopy. I'm over 45. Guys go get checked out. I needed my girlfriend there with me the whole time. Like, drive to the doctor's appointment with me, sit in the waiting room. I want you there when I wake up. And she was. Dude, that's me with a mammogram. Like, guys, and I'll look right at the camera. Guys, why the fuck aren't you going to a mammogram appointment to support your women? Like you said, you're queen. Like,
Yeah, dude.
It's a scary thing, dude. Go with them.
Yeah,
It's
the
a
emotional
necessary-
distress that they're in, I'm sure, is just unbearable.
Yeah, so some of those statistics shock me, but the fact that I could have been there for her and been there when she needed me the most through all of that, there was definitely a little bit of a connection between both of us.
When you were talking about telling Papa and your kids and saying that, like, telling people, like, what was that weight like, having conversations with, like, for me, you know, like, I'm thinking about your kiddos, man. Like, you telling your kiddos what's going on with your wife and their mother. Are these face conversations? Are these phone conversations? Are they get home because we're talking tonight?
Yeah, so the oldest at the time was Jasmine. She was our 21-year-old at the time.
Who was present when Sonia passed?
Yep, she was present when Sonia passed. She was in a serious relationship. I don't think she was engaged at the time. Actually, I think my son-in-law Chris, I don't know because it was a private conversation, but I believe that he love that kid. I believe that he asked for permission from Sonia on her deathbed.
Ooh.
And like I said, I wasn't there. He did the right thing and asked me for permission later as well, but I believe that he asked her. And I like to believe that he told her that he's got her, you know. So
Oh my God.
So anyway, my 21-year-old, she had her own life. She was out of the house. She was living with her now husband, Chris, and the dad to my grandbaby. So, of course, I love the guy. Sonia actually told her on the phone, hey, there's some medical issues. Come down to the hospital. She was local. She came in, and we had that conversation in person. That was day 2. That was on Friday, February 23rd.
So you just got the news.
Just got the news. We had validated that it was cancer. We got Jasmine down to the hospital, and we told her in person. And, of course, it was, you know, at that point, that was the hardest conversation we had. The entire weekend, our youngest daughter, who was 16, she was a junior in high school. She was a cheerleader. She's with her cheer team at an out-of-state competition in California. And fucking technology, man. She had Life 360 or Snap Maps or Google Map, whatever kind of map she had. She knew that we were in the hospital.
Oh, shit.
So on Saturday or on Friday, she calls us, FaceTimes us, Dad, what are you doing? Why are you guys in the hospital? Baby, Mom had a stomach ache. Sonia didn't want to tell her yet. Mom had a stomach ache. It's just precautionary. We're running some tests. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Get to Sunday. She comes home. We have a friend bring her immediately to the hospital, at which point we tell her kind of the current standings. So at this point, we didn't have the biopsy back. We didn't know it was metastatic breast cancer. We just knew there was tumors throughout her body. We didn't have all the details, but we got to tell her. That entire weekend, I kept telling Sonia, hey, we need to tell Caden. Caden is our 21-year-old son at the time. Sorry, 19-year-old son at the time. He's in college in Texas, playing baseball. Season just started. He's on his own, right, in Texas. And he's a mama's boy. Parents shouldn't have favorites, but Caden was his mama's favorite. Like, they had this special bond. Only son, right? They had this mother-son bond. And she did not want to tell him. And I said, babe, like, we need to let him know what's going on. No, I'm not going to. I'm like, okay. We kept having conversations about it. We get to probably day 6, and I find, you know, the nurses are starting to say, yeah, it's weeks. You need to tell everybody now. Sonia still didn't want to tell Caden.
Oh, man.
And I remember we almost got in a fight about it. Not a fight, an argument.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I was adamant that we have to tell him. she was adamant that, no, I'm going to be fine. He'll find out when I beat this thing. And finally, I decided to do it on my own. And
without her knowing?
She knew. She wasn't happy about it, but I said, it kind of came to one of those points of, my wife was German-Italian, more German than Italian. And
so you're not
like I said, she was a badass bitch. You don't argue with her. She tells you what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Finally, I got her convinced to where I was going to do it. She wasn't happy about it, but I was going to do it. And this is actually kind of a cool story. So from Arizona, my son goes to play baseball at a school called Mary Hardin Baylor in Texas. And when we took him there for all his recruiting visits, the coach came and watched him play out in Arizona. He watched him play in Texas, a couple other places. And when we finally signed on with the school, the coach told us, he goes, hey, listen, we know he's your baby. We know he's away from home. I got him. No matter what, I always got him. Okay. Fast forward to the day before we told my son, I called the coach and I said, hey, remember when we dropped Caden off and you said you got him? And he's like, yeah, Shane, sure do. And I said, well, I need you. And I explained everything to him, and he broke down on the phone. Ugh. And I mean, we just cried for probably 10 minutes together. It was horrible. And he goes, what do you need? And I said, well, he's got nobody there. And I remember he said, Shane, he's got everybody here. He's got his brothers on the team. He's got me. He's got all his other coaches. Like, we got you. We got him. And so we arranged a phone call. Caden was actually a little scared because it was at the beginning of the season. And coach told him, hey, I need to meet you after this class.
Oh, I thought he was getting cut.
Thought he was getting cut. Thought he was getting in trouble. Had no clue. I talked to Caden later. He said, Dad, I was scared to death. I didn't know what coach wanted. Coach Stosky. And coach has a couple of his really good buddies, bring him down to his office. He gets in there, calls me. I get on the phone. I tell Caden. Caden is a very emotional, he represses his emotions. So buries everything, right?
Sound familiar?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And have that conversation with him. His coach immediately has 4 of his teammates drive him to the airport, where we already had a flight ready for him from Austin here, had somebody pick him up and brought him in to see his mom. So that was really tough. A little bit of the tougher part was that conversation with Caden happened on March 1st, which was our 22nd anniversary. So, man, that day, it just hit me in the mouth, and out of the 3 kids, that might have been the hardest one because, like I said, Jasmine came to the hospital. We talked to her. Lila, my youngest daughter, came to the hospital, and we talked to her. Caden was 1,500 miles away, and we had to tell him over the phone, and he didn't know. And then, then this kid gets on a plane, and he's 3 hours by himself getting here, and who knows what emotions he's thinking or thoughts he's thinking, emotions he's going through. And, yeah, that was a tough one. So it was tough. Those were the 3 hardest conversations, right? Your kids are everything. After that, Sonia actually agreed that we wanted to spread the message and spread some awareness. So we actually created the 17 Days first page together. So it wasn't named 17 Days at the time, obviously, because she was still alive. But we started a TikTok page and just posted daily updates. And it went day 1 through day 17.
Damn.
And, she would, one of the photos, if you go back at the TikTok now and look, she's holding a cup from Starbucks, and bless Starbucks, they wrote "fuck cancer" on the top of the lid, and she's flipping it off. She's holding a Rice Krispie treat. She wanted Rice Krispie treats one day, so I bought her a box and wrote, "fuck cancer" on every pack, or some message on every pack. So we've got pictures with that. And all the way up until, day 17, we posted when she passed away, and then spread a lot of awareness and told a lot of that story. And then that went dormant for almost 3 years until I picked it back up and said, time to finish the story and tell more people. So,
how much have you changed since I mean, in those 3 years, I mean, you've been working on yourself. You've been trying to find happiness through employment or business ventures. And
Yeah.
I mean, what's the relationship with your kiddos like now, 3 years later?
Yeah. I mean, I said it earlier, like my wife created this version of me and she doesn't get to live with it, but I'm such a better version of who I was. Put all the infidelity and the anger issues behind that. But I was quick-tempered. I mean, I remember if I had a bad day and I'd come home at dinner and something wasn't quite right, I'd just assume blow up and yell at everybody and get in a fight as opposed to just relax and breathe and talk through it, right? Now I'm that kind of person. I can't remember the last time I've been angry at any family member. I'm not saying I don't get angry.
Yeah.
I display it differently.
You don't misdirect it.
I don't misdirect it. I display it a little differently. I am so much of a better person. The relationship with my kids is similar to what it was. I always had a close relationship with my kids. So me and my son were best friends. We'd, play ball together. We'd go hang out. We'd do things together. Both of my girls are my little girls. I love them to death. Now it's almost, and they're older too, right? Now they're 24, 21, and 19. So now it's almost more like a friendship. Mm-hmm. The piece that I miss is I'll contend I'm a really good dad, right? I'm a dope dad.
Hell yeah, you are.
I'm not a mom. I'm not a great mother. So when it comes to my oldest that's planning her wedding, she's already married, but when she had to plan her wedding, like I wasn't the one running around to 20 different stores and trying on dresses and, setting up the venue. And my oldest missed out on that. When it is my oldest that's graduating college and determining if she's going to walk or not, or where her pictures are going to be, or what her hair is going to look like, that's not me. She missed out on that. When she has her first child or had her first child, my little lollipop, my 8-month-old granddaughter, she was able to share that news with me and I was ecstatic over the moon, but, grandma's not there picking out the wallpaper for the nursery and what the crib's going to look like and the coming home outfit. She missed out on that. And same thing for my son. For the first time, I think ever, my son pitched in a baseball game and, he looks up to the crowd and he sees me, but there's an empty seat where his mom would be, And then my youngest daughter, Lila, that one, I don't know that I have regrets, but I feel like I could do a better job being both a father and a mother to her. She's literally my best friend. We joke, man, and she's just like her mom. She's a little firecracker. She'll tell you exactly what she's thinking. She's so strong-willed, but she's also so emotional and just loves so hard and so deep. And, her mom missed high school graduation, first day of college, first boyfriend. She misses all of these things, and she doesn't have a mom for her. And as good of a dad as I can be, I'm not her mom. And it's tough. And sometimes I need to remind myself, like, as much as I'm there, I probably need to be there a little more. I need to get involved a little deeper. But yeah, the relationship with them is amazing. I mean, my son is still in Texas. He's in his senior year. He's with a wonderful girl, Emma. They've been dating for over 3 years. Caden, when you listen to this, you better hurry up and get the ring out and get on your knee.
Yeah, bro.
Don't lose this girl. I love her to death. She's already part of the family, but she's going to grad school, so I think they're going to stay in Texas for another 4 years. But my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter both live here in Gilbert area, so they're over. I mean, I saw both of them 3 days ago. So it's amazing. We do family dinners together. We do family game nights together. It's different for sure, but yeah, I'm involved in all their lives. They're involved in my life, and they're 1,000% supportive. I had a conversation with all of them individually before I started dating. And when I say started dating, It was a relationship with my girlfriend, Rachel, that she's the only one I've dated after my late wife, Sonia. I didn't go to the dating pool. Like, we met, we cultivated a relationship, and before anything serious happened, I had a conversation with all my kids and let them meet her, and every one of them gave me a stamp of approval and said, yep, not immediately, but yep, we love her. And she's so empathetic and sympathetic. She's there for every one of my kids and would, treat them just like her own.
Yeah.
And she's very sympathetic and empathetic, like I said, around the topic of Sonia. She actually knew Sonia before she passed, and shares stories, and she doesn't mind when we talk. And, sometimes I put myself in her shoes and go, man, my boyfriend's going on a podcast talking about how much he loves his wife and he's crying and how much he misses her and this and that. And yet he's with me. And that's got to be hard on her too, man. She's a hell of a woman.
Yeah.
And all of my kids are hella kids to make it through this. So yeah, all my relationships right now are really, really healthy, really, really great. And continuing to just get stronger day by day.
Guilt's a motherfucker, ain't it?
Fuck guilt, man. Guilt is tough.
It's like you can't run from it, right? And the thing is, too, like, you do deserve to be happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you deserve to be happy. Your late wife would want you to be happy, right? Like, that's her mission.
Yeah.
Right? That's why she steered you, right?
Yeah.
To be the best version of yourself, so that anybody who came in contact with you would benefit from the best version of you.
Yeah, and guilt is a bitch, but I think, she's in heaven smiling right now saying, I created that. He's finally where I want him to be, and she's happy. She's happy for me, right? And she's in literal paradise. But yeah, guilt, fuck, you can never run from it. It's tough, and it eats you up unless you get it out. So you got to use some of those outlets to get it out.
Yeah.
And I talk openly about it. Mm-hmm. Like I actually say what I feel guilty about, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, but at least it's out there.
Yeah, and honesty, man, like something that most dudes struggle with, honesty, man, being able to be honest and not have like weird secrets and shit, like that sheds that initial layer of guilt that I think so many people struggle with.
Yeah, and I think it's going back to the dude card, I think it's because it makes us vulnerable. It makes us imperfect, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm guilty about infidelity. I'm guilty about not being a mom and a dad to my kids. I'm guilty about, my wife not getting the best version of me. I'm guilty that, my girlfriend has to listen to some of this stuff and still stands by my side. All of that has the potential to make me feel like less of a man, but it shouldn't, right? Like, it's just my feelings, bro. That's how I feel. It's life. It's true. And when I'm able to get it out and talk about it and share it, A, it helps me feel better. B, it helps those around me understand where I'm coming from. And C, ultimately, it hopes somebody else that's listening to this go, damn, maybe he's right. Maybe if I just told my wife or my girlfriend or my kids or, anybody what I'm feeling, maybe we can work through it together and it's not as bad as you think. Like, all this stuff in my mind is like, dude, this is horrible. And then I say it out loud to somebody else and they're like, it's okay.
That's normal.
Like, we'll work through it. Yeah, it's normal. So
that's tough, man. When you say that you guys had an imperfect marriage, were there times that you guys almost called it quits before her passing?
So many times. We, so many times. Mm-hmm. When we first got together, I mean, our relationship started with infidelity. I think we were dating the first time I cheated on her, and I don't know why, she came back to me. And then we were going to get married very young. She actually got cold feet and backed out about a week before the wedding. Mm. And within months, I came back, and we had Jasmine on the way. We moved from the only place she ever knew, St. Joe, Michigan. We moved, started chasing jobs, and I moved her to Ohio. And then I moved her to Wisconsin a year after that, someplace we'd never seen, sight unseen, just moved for a job. Moved back to a different part of Michigan. Start building a nice little house. We have Jasmine and Caden at this point, and I decide on a whim and against her best wishes to move us to Tucson, Arizona. And along the way, the infidelity, the anger, at least there wasn't the addiction portion there, but mental health. I mean, there were some intimacy issues. We definitely had a lot of conversations. I mean, we used to be the ones that would scream and yell and fight. Never physical, but man, we would scream and yell and fight and say nasty things, and it was bad. And then the D word came up, right? Divorce. Like, we talked about divorce on multiple different occasions. And talk about guilt. I don't know why to this day she didn't divorce me. If Sonia was my daughter and this was happening, my advice would be,
leave that motherfucker.
Why the fuck haven't you left him yet? Like, I'm going to beat his ass and then you're going to divorce him, period. And that was me. Like, why she stuck with me, and that's unconditional, that's true love that I've never been able to accept until now. Yeah, we had a rough go about it, even a couple of years, and as we matured, we stopped the yelling and the cussing and everything else. But as we got to probably a couple years before her death, I mean, we were even then talking very rationally about, do we just call it quits and be friends and move on? Or, do we keep going? And for some reason, man, she stuck by my side, and we never pulled the trigger. And thank God we didn't, because deep down, I mean, she was the love of my life. I love her to death. And even though I didn't always treat her right, God, I miss her.
When you guys were in the hospital and then at the crib for the last 9 days, and part of your journey was making amends, like bedside, and like, did you guys touch on all that type of shit? Was it current events? Was it revisiting the past? Was it the journey of marriage and everything together? Or
it was one of the most special moments I had with her, man. I was almost afraid, and this sounds weird, but I was almost afraid to tell her exactly how I felt and everything I did, because I was going to be judged. So fucking selfish, right? But I did. So one of the days we allotted everybody time to come into the room, spend 30, 45, an hour long with her, talk about whatever they want, but it's just time with you and Sonia. Nobody else, no interruptions. You get whatever you want. Of course, I could do that whenever I wanted, but one of the times I went in and I literally sat with her right next to her bed. She was coherent, and I told her everything, man, how I felt. I didn't leave any stone unturned. She, at that point, knew everything I had ever done, and and she looked at me and hugged me and said, "I love you, Daddy." Dude, how does love get better than that? Like, so yeah, I had that opportunity to clear my own chest and my own conscience, but more importantly, it was an opportunity for my wife to literally validate the love that she had. And it helped me understand, because she always said, "I'll always love you. I'll always be there for you." But it helped to me to validate, like, there is true love out there. There are people that will stand by your side no matter what. And for her to say those words to me, and that was the last conscious words that she spoke to me, right? I told you she said a few other words, but the last, what I'll consider conscious words that she spoke to me, were right after I made full amends. We hugged, and she said, "I love you, Daddy."
you had talked about some like hallucinations and stuff that she was saying, like,
yeah.
Hard, huh? Hard to see that.
The hallucinations at first were almost comical, and we tried to correct her, and the nurses finally told us, this started in the hospital, and the nurses told us, just go with whatever she says. She's obviously hallucinating, go with whatever she says. And one of the interesting ones, wasn't the first, wasn't the most impactful, but definitely an interesting one, and it makes you think. There was me and two of her friends were sitting in the hospital room with her, and she sits up from the bed, the best she can, and she gets angry, and she's like, "Who got pink and purple glitter all over my floor?" And at first we were like, babe, there's no pink and purple glitter. Like, it's okay. Just go back to bed. No, there's pink and purple glitter all over my floor and it won't come up. And she was adamant. A few hours later, I go downstairs. I walk outside. I think I had to make some phone calls. And my neighbor, Michelle, calls me. And her and her daughter were over at our house, and they were making door signs to sell as a fundraiser. So they all had Sonia Strong, nice wooden signs with ribbons and very artistic. And she calls me and says, Shane, I'm sorry. She goes, me and my daughter are over here making signs, and we got pink and purple glitter all over your floor.
No fucking way.
And I go, Michelle, what'd you say? And she goes, Shane, I'm sorry. Like, we tried to clean it up. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll get it up. She goes, but there's pink and purple glitter all over your floor. And I like, how do you know that? Right? Like, how do you see that? Is she that close that she was in two places at once and could see?
Yeah, where have you
know,
gone?
where do you know? How do you know that? So there was, I mean, I could tell you 20 amazing stories that happened, all those coincidences, little God whispers. And some of them were scary, some of them were funny, but they were all motivating and they were all actually comforting in some way or another.
Journey,
brother. Journey of life.
So before we wrap shit up, man, what's next for you, man? What's next for 17 days? What can people expect, man? Like what's on the roster? I mean, obviously your quest is to spread awareness. Your quest is to connect with people, which is probably like one of the things that I appreciate the most, right? Like it's the connection, right? Like we're not going to be able to save everybody. We're not going to be able to necessarily influence or inspire everybody, but the human connection, right? Like we're not meant to go through shit alone, you know? So what's on the agenda, man? Where can people find you? What can people do to encourage or to promote the story or to be a participant?
Yeah, so I kicked this thing off on a whim, August of last year. And since then, I've been on some awesome podcasts, including yours. Like, I'm excited to see where this goes and how many people we can reach and what awareness we can spread. I've had some news interviews, some press releases that have come out. I've wrote my first book, which is on Kindle and Amazon.
Oh, hell yeah.
My Grandma is an Angel by Shane Musgrove. Please go check it out. That would help support. All over social media. One of my last social media posts reached over 2.5 million people worldwide, which is fucking incredible.
It's not you doing a TikTok dance, is it?
It is not me doing a TikTok dance. It was actually a small clip of part of my story from another podcast, and very impactful. So, yeah, for me, man, it's continuing to spread awareness, reach people. I can be found on, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. My website is 17days.me. So please look me up there. It'll connect to all my social media. I'm really close to launching a clothing brand. It's going to be Widow Wear by 17 Days. And it's going to have some very inspirational, some very funny, humorous, maybe even a little dark humor shirts, just things for widows, widowers. And then I'll expand that into, kids with mental health issues or grief or anything. More books to come soon. So, like I said, man, just continuing to spread awareness. And, it's fun for me right now to speak and to write and to get this story out there. But the most important thing is, like I said, if I can get one woman to go get a mammogram, if I can get one dude to go with his wife or his girl to get a mammogram, if I can, help one guy that's going through some emotional thing, if I can help one teenager that, has lost a mother or father, if I can help one 8-year-old that's lost a grandmother, man, that's validation for me of what I'm doing this. So, 17 days, 17days.me, and that's my story, brother.
That's huge, man. That's one chapter of your story. You're a really cool motherfucker, man. I do like the conversations that we've had getting coffee before and outside of the podcast, man. Like, obviously there's a lot of depth to you, man. There's a lot of backstory, man. I'd love to have you back on the show again in the future, man, and kind of start to like tap into, some of the childhood trauma that leads us into who we are today. And
brother.
And just the journey that gets us there, man. Take today with you, knowing that you've inspired one dude that has 3 daughters and a queen that will take your teaching serious, man, and apply that shit. And
for real, man. Like, your stories definitely heightened my awareness to the realities of the world and how quickly something can transpire, man. And, you know, if anything, man, like, I hear it, I see it, and it's been amazing to get to have you on the show, to have a conversation with you, man, to be able to learn more about your journey, man. So,
yeah, you're a dope dad, and I love you, brother.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you, bro. I'll catch you back on the show, man. To all the viewers, to all the listeners, to everybody out there, thank you. I hope you appreciate the show today, man. There's a lot of value behind this one, man. You know what to do, man. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a mom, tell a dad, tell a kid. Until next time, stay dope. Thank you for joining us on the Dope Dad Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it with a friend. You can support the show by giving a like, sharing, and subscribing, and you can find us on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast fix. If there's content you'd like to hear more of, please leave a comment. We'll make sure we try to get it in the show. Continue to tune in for more dope guests and real conversation.